I see a lot of young people, they're doing so many things in business, so many ideas, and they're willing to work for the money and work hard and be smart. And if you're young and you try something, it doesn't work. As long as you're not, married with a bunch of kids and have financial obligations that you need to support, you have that flexibility to try something else. There's no substitute for working hard. And by the way, there's also the idea of working smart. If you're working so unbelievably hard day and night, it might be you need to work smarter, maybe even hire someone else in, get automation, AI to do it for you, to free you up to do more things. But it is incredible.
We sat down with one of the world's richest Jews and asked him some juicy questions. What would you do right now to make money? What's the fastest legal way to build wealth? How do you spot a liar in business? And why do so many smart people stay broke? We covered a lot with Dr. Rich Roberts, an entrepreneur and philanthropist in Lakewood, New Jersey, who sold his pharmaceutical business in 2012 for about $800 million. In our first interview, he correctly predicted the winner of the 2024 presidency and taught us a whole lot about investing. In this interview, he made a prediction that came true in real time. It was wild, and I'll explain more in the outro. Oh, and he has a mind-blowing thought about UFOs. So much goodness in here. Hold on to your seats and buckle in. Being a Jew? Awesome. Managing personal finances? Not so awesome. Welcome to Kosher Money. We're here with Dr. Rich Roberts. Our second conversation, our first episode, has hundreds of thousands of views and listens. And we want to try to condense the 40 plus years of your working life into a 1 hour conversation. I think you can do it. You do speak, you pack a lot in. And the first question is, if you were 22 years old, right, in 2025, what would you do to launch your career, start a business? Where would you drive yourself to make money in today's climate?
One thing for sure, I would get as much education as I could, as you can afford. Knowing things is really, really helpful and really separates one from the crowd. Also, there's a question of if you're going to have an added value in terms of your specific area of knowledge or expertise that you've been educated in, or if you're just going to go out and try to wheel and deal and manage. And people can go down both paths. But you're talking about really starting your own business, right? Not working for somebody else. Is that really what you're?
Yeah, I think we can discuss both of them. You pick if you're working for somebody else, but I want to talk about more of the entrepreneurial perspective. With AI and technology, every week it's changing. Is that where you would go? And when you mention education, a lot of people are anti-college. What type of education are you referring to?
AI is critically important. I'm a huge believer in it. And I believe this is a revolution, just like the advent of the internet and maybe the Industrial Revolution. It is absolutely incredible. Robotics are lagging behind AI. In other words, AI has such incredible capabilities now, and robotics are coming, but well behind it in terms of the ability of robots to perform tasks, actually do the labor. You could see where it's going to, though. So I would think, and I have to say, I'm not in the job market, so I really I'm not an expert at this point, but I would think that something within the AI space, whether it's learning how AI systems work with the formal education, how to write AI programs, how to manage AI, or in robotics, I would think are good ways to go. Science is still in and still progressing. So, I'm a medical doctor and doctor of biophysics, but I was in the pharmaceutical area. So I think getting a scientific education is also very, very valuable at this point. The other thing is finance. I don't know if this is considered socially inappropriate to say, but I don't really care. The majority of people in medical schools used to be white males, and eventually mostly white males and some white females. Now it's become almost exclusively females and Asians and other minorities, and that's because the white males have all gone into finance. When I say all, not all, but a large number of them, because that's where the money is. A lot of the money is left medicine, and a lot of the money is in finance and financing, and whether it's managing the finance of a company or whether it's investments. I'd say the world is exploding as of this moment with tariffs. It might feel like it's exploding, but I mean exploding in a positive, advancing way. the ability to be outputting goods per worker. You can call worker efficiency, but it's really the massive output of goods per worker is just going to blossom given AI and given robotics. So I think that the sky's the limit at this point, and a lot of areas one could be in. But if someone doesn't want to go down the path of getting a more formal education, then there are things that one can do. I'm not talking about the trades, which by the trades are not bad, right? They say, I don't know, maybe they're going to get robots someday to do your piping or, to snake your toilet. But that's probably a long time. Those are the types of jobs that are probably the most protected, electrician, that type of thing. But there are plenty of ways to, start businesses. I once attended a dinner of a major Orthodox Jewish institution where it was an informal, quiet dinner, just like the major donors were there. And I was the only guy there that was not real estate. And other guys there were supposedly, billionaire real estate investors and owners. Now, first of all, someone who owns or controls $1 billion of real estate might have a net worth of zero, right? It might all be mortgaged to the hilt. So it doesn't mean that they're wealthy. But these guys supposedly give a lot of money to charities, which again could be a true indicator of wealth, or it could be there have been scammers that have used that as a credential in the past. But I was stunned by how not so brilliant these people were. And I'm saying that generously. And their knowledge of how to manage an organization was like zero. They just buy, they sell, they might manage, collect rents, get tenants, but they don't know how to run an organization, run a company, look for managerial efficiencies. I was shocked. So it's kind of like if they could do it, probably a lot of other people could do it. And there are plenty of real estate courses. By the way, I don't think anybody should pay any money. If you go online, there's a huge industry of scammers who they say they've made it rich. Look at me, I'm going on my private jet and here's my Porsche, whatever. And they show online all this stuff. And of course, it's not their jet. And it doesn't matter if it is or not. And they're selling you on a course, they're going to teach you how to get wealthy like them. Well, if they got so wealthy, why do they have to charge you? And why are they even messing with that? There's a dollar value to time. Why are they spending their time on the internet trying to get you to pay money to take a course from them? They should be doing more of what they're doing, making their gazillion of dollars. The answer is because they're not wealthy, and they're just trying to scam you. So I don't think nobody should take my advice here and think that means to go out and take some internet course on the internet for some guy showing how you can be with his gold chains and whatever they're doing. No. But there are plenty of ways to learn real estate online. There's a group here in Lakewood, PCS, that does a professional counseling services of the Aguda and other places. You can learn for very little money and also work for somebody. Try to get a job for somebody who does real estate. One thing I've learned in life, and it's just true all over the place, is people don't know that they don't know. No, you don't know. You have no idea. The people in that area, they know the area. You have no idea what you don't know. And you joked about my giving you my 40 years of business experience in an hour. I know a guy, a billionaire, who has his cousin has a son. He had a little time off from yeshiva. So I called this billionaire and said, look, I have some time off. This billionaire was in real estate for like 40 years. So I have some time off. Can I come over to your office for a half hour so you can teach me what you know so I can go do real estate? And it's like, there's so much in every area. So it's very helpful to go work for people who are in that area. You may at some point want to go off on your own, but to get started, work for somebody and do the job and do the work and learn the area. And then at some point, hopefully you can go off on your own.
So that's challenging for somebody who, in order to learn, is required to go to 4 years of undergrad and then 4 years of graduate school, medical school, and then say, hey, maybe being a doctor is not for me. How do you bridge the two where you can see if it's something that interests you without an overinvestment in time or money?
That's a beautiful question. What I found is, I've said this for decades, the only people who really know that they want to be medical doctors are Jewish boys who have their mothers whipping them, saying, "You're going to medical school. You're going to medical school." And I'm not talking about the religious Jews. That was my experience before I was from. You really don't know what an area is like until you do it. One could try to work in a doctor's office maybe for a little bit, but there is a risk. You ultimately don't know what you want to do until you actually get trained in it. And in every field, they actually train you far beyond what's needed to actually do that job. And obviously, you don't want your medical doctor to be struggling to try to figure out what your disease is and to be clueless and be learning on the job with you. Same thing for your lawyer, your accountant, your dentist, whatever it is, the guy manufacturing your car. You don't want him to be trying to figure out how to put a car together when the manufacturer. So people get trained beyond the requirements of their job in terms of that technical area. But with years and years of experience, then one gets to see the ins and outs. What happens, I remember when we had problems in our company in operations and manufacturing. And I was interviewing for vice presidents of manufacturing. And one guy came in, I told him about the problem we were having with the granulation. It's the powders and they're mixed with alcohol or water and then dried in ovens. And I told him the problem we were having. And he had seen the problem 5 times in 5 different companies and knew 5 different solutions and knew which ones worked and which didn't. And that they can't teach you in school. So there's a tremendous value to getting out there, getting work experience before one decides to go off on his own. In terms of getting the education, all the investment, it depends also on one's financial backing. If a person's from a wealthy family and therefore doesn't have to put bread on the table and the parents can pay for the education, there's less of a personal risk to it than one who has to take debt on up to the hilt, which so many doctors and nurses and others do now, and it takes them years and years and years and years to try to dig out of that hole. Whereas that's one of the reasons why people are talking about not going to college. You go into one of the trades, plumbing is a great job. Try to get a plumber to come in when you have an emergency. Difficult to find one. So there are real reasons to not go down the heavy formal education path if one's going to incur a lot of debt and one is financially dependent on making money sooner rather than later.
So let's fast forward. Someone who's in their 30s, 40s, 50s has a job but is looking to make more money. What are you seeing out there in terms of investment, not as advice, but for people to, would you say it's a side hustle? Would you say it's working smarter, not harder? And don't take on a side hustle, but maybe invest in someone who is starting that plumbing business. What can you share that's outside the box?
That's a huge topic. And you've just named a lot of very legitimate potential paths. So when someone is 30, 40, 50, presumably married with children, now they are more locked into having to keep their job. And they can be looking for, through headhunters, through management recruiters, whatever we're going to call it, for, better paying jobs in their area. Of course, it doesn't, one has to assess what the stability of the company is going into, if they get, as best they can, the work environment, be careful about the grass that's greener on the other side. In terms of augmenting one's income, obviously investing is a great way to do it. It can be in the stock market. As I tell people, just buy SPY, right? That's the S&P 500 index, and just do it on a disciplined schedule. It's called cost dollar averaging. Every week, every 2 weeks, every month, I'm just going to buy it this amount. If it's up, I buy. If it's down, I buy. Make sure you don't sell, though. It can't be forced to sell. And if you look at over any 10-year, 20-year, 30-year period, you can see it's been up and up and up. But don't get crushed during the downs of panicking and selling, because that's how wealthy people take not wealthy people's money. So that's what's a way to do it. The gig economy is huge. The trouble is you're competing against some very capable people in foreign countries that speak English well and actually do a good job, and they're very, very inexpensive, very cheap. There are people that are buying and selling. They're trying to buy and sell them, whether it's on Amazon, which I understand has been becoming more difficult year after year. Amazon's always looking for better ways to squeeze the profit out of the sellers themselves, which is what large retailers always do. Well, when we were dealing with the large drugstore companies, meaning a Walmart, and a Walmart's not just drugstores, but they have pharmacy components that can buy in mass, and CVS and Rite Aid and Walgreens, they were always looking to try to squeeze us down on prices. It was always a fight and always difficult. I'm not giving you answers. I've given you thoughts on it. Actually, I'd be curious what AI says.
Right.
I use GPT-4, 4.0 all the time now. I'd be curious what they say in terms of what are the best areas to go into.
In what ways are you using it for your day-to-day?
Oh, I use it. I don't know. So many ways, so many areas. It's astounding. It's absolutely astounding. I have a political / litigation case I'm working on now, just for the good of the public, not for my good. And GPT-4 has been 4.0 has been incredible in surveying the internet, giving me the answers, giving me the information, the examples, the links. I'm doing a video series now on the Israel Hamas conflict, and for part 2, here's just an example. So an ex-director of the BBC said, look, it's terrible what happened on October 7th, 2023, when Hamas killed 1,200 Israelis. That was horrible and took 250 people hostage. But does that justify all the destruction and all the killing that's occurred in Gaza? Because there's certainly way outdone the size of the death and destruction doesn't even compare. So I'm thinking this guy is completely off. So I'm thinking about, when did America lose that kind of number of people, and what did we do? So World War II, we were attacked at Pearl Harbor. We lost about 2,400 people. As a result, we killed 2.5 million. America was totally justified. But when you start a war, it's not like, okay, the other side I just attacked to start the war can only attack me in equal amounts. No, you start a war. Now the war is started, and now it goes to one side. Each side tries to win. So America was totally justified. 2,400 people killed at Pearl Harbor, and we killed 2.5 million. America did. Totally justified. And of course, the number of deaths from Israel's military efforts, even if you take Hamas's Gaza health authorities numbers, is way below that kind of a ratio. That was when I just went into GPT 4.0. I could go search it, and maybe I'm going to end up with 1,000 websites I have to click on. But that's an example. AI just bang gave me the answer. Also, the numbers for 9/11. When we lost 3,000 people, how many people we killed in Afghanistan. So, but I use it all over the place. My Tesla car, how do I, restart the computer there? Bang, get the answer. My Wi-Fi system in the house, I have a mesh system. So is there an issue whether I mount the hubs vertically or horizontally? Because I was having all kinds of trouble. And I said, yes. You can't do them vertically, otherwise the way the signals come out, they won't mesh with each other. So then I changed them all to horizontal positioning. Bang, it's cured. It was solved. I just use it all over the place. Health, information on glycemic index of foods and pharmaceuticals. I've used it in a number of medical cases where I have people, contact. I don't practice medicine anymore, but I just free consult for people and give them my opinion if they want. I always tell them, disclaimer, I'm not practicing, I'm not your doctor, talk to your doctor. But they say, I had that infection, these symptoms. I said, I think you need to go to your doctor, need to get this antibiotic. Then I go check, let me just go check, make sure I remember correctly. And yes, there were 4 antibiotics, and one I suggested was the top one. But, double check medicine. It's incredible.
Sounds like you've even saved money using it as a resource, because you didn't have to bring in an IT guy to help you with the Wi-Fi. You didn't have to bring your car to an auto mechanic to help restart the computer. So the $20 or $200 a month that you're spending on this product sounds like it's paying dividends.
Yes, incredible. It is incredible. I think I'm spending $20 a month. And yeah, I've saved all over the place. That's GPT 4.0. I saw that Google, I haven't tried it. Google has an AI. I think it's for free, and any program, new program you want or app, they call it now.
Hmm.
But and I'm thinking like for a a video editing program on the computer, you can have the app join in with you on that program and ask it how do you do things, and it'll show you step by step how to do it. The Google AI will share do it on that app as
Wow.
you're wanting to do it. It's just incredible.
So for someone that has time and effort coupled with AI, they should, with God's help, be unstoppable.
Well, unstoppable is, I mean, that's so. First of all, yeah, the time, the effort, that's key. That's so key. Is effort? It's work. Things take work, and it takes dedication, and AI certainly can help to answer and guide you through it. But there's so much opportunity. People will just work, and then obviously you need Hashem's help, but Hashem seems to only, like in 99.99% of the cases, it seems to help those that work hard,
Hmm.
because you have to do your style. Listen, and people are going to argue with that. Okay, fine. Uh,
Do you see young people looking for shortcuts, and that's ultimately their failure, and they just have to learn over the years that there is no shortcut?
I see a lot of young people. They're doing so many things in business, so many ideas, and they're willing to work for money. For the money, and work hard and be smart. And if you're young and you try something, it doesn't work. As long as you're not married with a bunch of kids and have financial obligations that you need to support, you have that flexibility to try something else. So but there's no substitute for working hard. And by the way, there's also the idea of working smart. If you're working so unbelievably hard day and night, it might be you need to work smarter, maybe even hire someone else in, or get automation AI to do it for you, to free you up to do more things. But it is incredible.
The law of diminishing returns, right? That 12th hour in the office, you're probably better served going to sleep and starting fresh
Could
the
be.
next day.
Yes, could be.
We'll be right back to this week's episode, but first, Rachel was 16 years old. She was overwhelmed, questioning her future, her faith, her place in the world. She sat in the back row, silent, unsure, until she found Naava. There, she wasn't just seen, she was embraced. Through late night talks, real emotional support, and the kind of spiritual guidance she'd never had before, Rachel began to feel whole again. Because sometimes all it takes is one place that believes in you before you believe in yourself. Naava is a lifeline for thousands and thousands of Jewish girls and women, offering trauma recovery programs, a 24/6 crisis hotline, and a healing ranch where they can feel safe. Founded nearly 20 years ago, Naava has quietly become one of the most trusted names in Jewish women's support and care. It's endorsed by educators, therapists, and rabbis across the world, but they can't do it alone. Join the Every Dollar for Everyone campaign. Just $1 a day can change a life. Literally. Thousands already give $1 a day, but it's not enough. They believe every girl deserves a future filled with hope. So go to arnava.com/1for1, spelling and the link is in the show notes, or scan the QR code if you're watching this video on your screen, because every dollar counts and every Rachel matters. Maybe you've considered innovating a whole new way of operating your business, but dismissed it that it was just too hard. Time lost is profit lost, and scaling feels impossible. That's where BitBean comes in. Love the name. BitBean specializes in custom software solutions that solve your unique challenges. So, whether you're in healthcare, real estate, retail, or any industry that's drowning in data or complex processes and workflows, their expert team will work with you to understand your needs and create a better in-class system tailored to your business. Send my regards. I'm Ellie. Use my name. One client, a therapy company, was overwhelmed with managing fieldwork, government forms, and a back office workflow. Ew. BitBean built them a custom solution that streamlined everything, saved them time and money. It's time to stop chasing information and start innovating. Visit bitbean.com to see how they can help your business scale smarter. That's bitbean.com. Custom software solutions that work for you. Link and info in the show notes. Enjoy.
You mentioned hiring and hiring the right person. For business owners listening, hiring the right person could be tens of thousands of dollars. saved versus investing in the wrong person. Because you've hired so many people throughout the years, what advice can you give people to help shorten the road for finding the right person and not making those mistakes? Because people present nicely in an interview, but when it comes down to it, that's not real work.
Yeah, I've found even like many times schizophrenics can fake it for a half an hour. So you do need to check references for people. And when you see their work history, try to find people who had worked there that are not on the resume. So you want to try to call references, but not the ones that are on the resume, because that's usually their friends. By the way, sometimes they'll give you less than stellar reviews, and then it's really pathetic. Also look for the work history. If you find someone changes jobs every year, every 2 years, that's a very, very suspicious sign. Either they could be that they're superstars and they're upwardly mobile and you'll see they go into higher and higher positions of authority, or it could be they're having conflicts with people in the office, they're doing something dishonest, and they keep getting fired. And they'll give you all the excuses. Yeah, the boss is horrible there, nobody wanted to stay. Oh, that one, they went out of business. I remember I was once interviewing for a vice president of finance and administration. And every company he'd been in had gone out of business. Mm-hmm. And he had all kinds of reasons for it all. I just thought, that's not, there's something not right there. I'd rather pass and go into something else. The other thing about hiring people, I would say, is with the gig economy. For example, Fiverr. On Fiverr, there's so many people now. They hire, Filipinos, people in other areas of Asia who speak perfectly good English, and they know accounting, they know computer programs, spreadsheets, whatever it is, even, advertising materials, although now you can even get AI to produce the advertising material for you. Obviously, you have to proof it and have to make changes, but you don't want to be so quick to hire someone. Now, it depends also how big your company is and what the nature of your company is. Are your viewers mostly
All kinds.
Okay.
All kinds.
So the answer for the different size of endeavors is going to be very, very different. If we're a 1 or 2 person company, a mom and pop company, if they're going to hire somebody else in, they're probably going to be working with that person, watching that person, and make sure that you don't allow them to upwardly delegate. Make sure they're doing the work. And then, if they're constantly telling you this is wrong, that is wrong, but they're not giving a solution or working on the solution, they're trying to delegate the problem up to you, then that's a real problem.
What traits would you look for in a person that would cause you to think, hey, I would even pay a premium for this person?
First thing I look for is someone who, when I'm interviewing them, their body posture. I want somebody sitting up like this or even forward like that, right? And not someone who's, you want somebody high energy, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as I've heard it expressed. Then I would always, at the higher levels, meaning, I guess, managers up through senior vice presidents, I would always ask the same question, one question always, which is, what jobs are beneath you? The guy for vice president says, well, I would never, back then we would file. Now I guess you do it on computer, but I wouldn't do filing. I wouldn't make my own phone calls. Thank you very much. I want a guy who says, if a bathroom needs to be cleaned, I'll clean the bathroom. You're paying me a lot of money to do that, though. It shouldn't be that I'm the one doing it. But if that's what needs to be done to make the company move forward, oh, sure, I'll absolutely do it. That's the type of attitude you want. So that I look very much for the attitude. Then, assuming that you're talking about somebody at a higher level in an area that requires some knowledge of that area, you need to ask them questions and drill down. So, for example, I had a guy applying for a job as a vice president of finance. I don't mean to pick on finance, but he said, when he was in this company, he was able to guide the savings of $10 million a year in the production area. So how did you do that? I made sure that we made the operations much more efficient. How did you do that? What areas of efficiency? Well, in the manufacturing of the tablets. Okay, in the tablet machines or the blending department or the pharmacy area? Oh, the blending, we were wasting so much before I got involved. Okay, which types of machines did you use? Were you doing dry blend or wet granulation or extruding? And then you start to go deeper and deeper, and you find out the guy doesn't know anything about the area. He's just claiming achievements that he had no parts of, or he happened to just be there when those achievements occurred, and he's trying to take credit for it. Any given area, pizza shop, guys coming out, I know how to run pizza shops. Okay, so now I'm going to talk out of my area of expertise. What are the problems you might find in the sauce? Maybe the sauce has mold growing on it. Maybe I'm making this up now. Maybe it comes in lumpy. Maybe you have to taste it. One batch might be too salty. Or how about the cheese? What do you find, or issues that comes in with the cheese? Maybe sometimes the shredded cheese is all clumped together and it's compressed down. You have to re-shred it, whereas another company makes sure it's always shredded. Now, anyways, in the pizza business, I just made this up. Okay, but that's the idea. How do you manage your employees in the pizza shops you've been in? How do you make sure they're not stealing out of the cash register? And then what happens is, as the company grows, or you can do what's called a roll-up strategy to grow the company besides just organic growth. Maybe I should just tell what roll-up strategy is. So let's say you're in a pizza shop, you could buy 2 more pizza shops. So now you have 3 pizza shops. And now you're buying cheese for the amount of 3 pizza shops. You get a better deal on the cheese. Or you can now have all the cheese kept in one little storage area that you have, and you only need to keep a smaller amount of cheese than you would otherwise have to do, because you can always every day have it dealt out to the different facilities. And then as you grow and grow, if you have 1,000 pizza shops, then you have a whole warehouse and shipping, and you can cut your amount of cheese that you have to keep on hand that you have to pay for, cut it down by 80%. That's a roll-up strategy. So many companies have done roll-up strategies. All the retail pharmacy chains, the Rite Aids, Walgreens, CVS, they were roll-up strategies. You keep buying and buying additional pharmacies. And as you do that, you don't need an accounting department for every one. You only need one accounting department for all 2,000 or 3,000 pharmacies. You only need, one warehouse or a couple for all the different pharmacies. So each pharmacy doesn't need to have 2 bottles of product sitting on the shelf that you have to pay for. You get a much less and most of the bottle and a small number of bottles to the warehouse that, as the pharmacy, which you now computerize, is getting low, you can ship it out there and reduce your inventory, reduce your waste. So that's a roll-up strategy. But as the company grows, gets bigger, you must grow in what you do. It's a classic story. I think I spoke about it previously. Companies that start out as a mom and pop company and they become successful and they grow to be 30, 40, 50, $60 million a year, and the company collapses because mom and pop that used to control everything now try to control everything, and it spins out of control. So as our company got bigger, I no longer, interviewed regular, hourly employees or salaried employees. I only did management. As it got bigger, eventually I was only interviewing my assistants, directors, and vice presidents, senior vice presidents, eventually only senior vice presidents.
And your assistants.
What's that?
And still interviewing your assistants, because you want to make sure that the person you're working directly with day to day, that there's synergy and all that.
You mean my personal secretary?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, for sure. I always had very good ones, except my first one. My first one, again, I was new in business.
Yeah.
My training was medicine and science. So she came in for an interview. She was recommended by some woman in our company. She came in. She said she has to get back to her company, very soon, because she doesn't want to get fired if they think she's looking for another job. I said, fine. So here's this page. Please go type this for me and see how long it takes. She said, okay, I'd love to do it, but I got to get back to my job right away. So so-and-so recommended me. She knows I can type extremely well.
Uh-huh.
I made the mistake and I hired her.
Oh, no.
It took her an entire day to type one page, and she was proud of it. Eventually I had to terminate her. Not that long down the road, but I had to terminate her.
Not with karate, right?
Yeah, no.
He's a black belt.
Termination of employment.
Right, there you go.
Sorry, it didn't even occur to me.
No, I think of you as the actual Terminator.
Oh, I see. Right.
I grew up with him, so I grew up when he was grown, but taught us karate. So
I got my second degree black belt in MMA about 4 months ago.
Really?
Yeah.
You're still going strong.
Oh yeah, I'm trying. I'm 68 years old, but I'm trying to fight the clock by working out a lot.
That's awesome. As you were talking, so many different things are popping into my head. I have a marketing agency, and one thing I found success in the hiring process is giving the top 3 people I'm considering to hire a paid project that these, it's going to take you 5 hours. Let me know when you have 5 hours, 7 different tasks to complete that will tell me, if they type well, if they know how to use AI well, if they can come up with a strategy well. And then it allows me to at least see tangible work so that I'm able to either consider or eliminate
So, meaning in the hiring process.
in the hiring process.
Right, exactly. It was just like what I failed to do with my first secretary, and it turns out she couldn't type. So, yeah, that's absolutely what you want to do. But also, even after you hire them, as much as you can, you want to manage them that way also. These are the tasks, these are the projects, what has to be done, and give them a timeline to do it, and then manage them that way. So, if you're going to be a mom and pop entrepreneur who can't grow, has to do it yourself, then you're going to be in it with them, doing it all the time with them. If you want to grow as a company, you're going to need to be able to assign it to them, but then you need to spot check them and make sure they're getting it done, make sure you're getting it done correctly. It doesn't mean to spot check everything. Spot checking means you're not checking every single thing, but you need to spot check them. And as you grow, eventually you'll put in metrics. You need to be producing this or producing that in this period of time. Metrics are not always able to capture everything and the areas that are difficult to capture, but you do the best you can. I'll just give you an example. Business development. I've never figured out a way to put metrics in for business development. You can say, okay, your goal is to make 3 deals this year. Okay, well, are they good deals or bad deals? What due diligence is done on them? How do they turn out 5 years down the road? I never could figure out in business development how to put on a metric. Now, in manufacturing, yes, we have to manufacture, 2 billion tablets and capsules this year. And we want to see that, you can put those metrics on, and then more detail all the way down the line. But some areas are more amenable to metrics than others, but it is a key way to manage. And you also manage by exception, that eventually you'll have people watching the metrics and getting the metrics for you from all those employees. And when something deviates from the norm, then you're told about it. And then everything that's humming along, you don't need to be involved with. That way you can deal with the exceptions to the performance requirements as needed, that hopefully aren't too many of them, and they get corrected, whether it's a procedure or it's people or equipment. And you can also spend your time then growing the company, thinking about ways to grow in the future.
You mentioned something very interesting, how as you grow, you don't necessarily need to hire more accounting hires because you have an infrastructure in place. And I'm thinking about my own marketing agency where I have infrastructure in place. If I was to not just think about how do I get more clients, but collaborating with someone in another area that wants to start a marketing firm, we can do it together, lean on my resources, and you'll have a whole easier time getting that business off the ground than some joint venture where you focus on the sales, the tending to the clients, but any backing you need as it relates to resources, I'm here for you.
Right. So if you have excess capacity, no matter what the company is, the type of company is, whether it's a marketing company, whether it's a pharmaceutical manufacturing company where we could add, we already paid for the entire building, all the equipment, that's enormous expense, all the HVAC systems, the HEPA filter systems, the water system, purification, and movement of materials. So, and then we don't pay all that. To add a second shift is just hourly employees, but all the other equipment is now getting used. So it's much cheaper for you. And that's just pure profit after that, after all the expenses are covered. And that's if you have excess capacity as a marketing company with the people that you've hired, the people you're paying, and with other equipment, or I don't know how much equipment there is, but resources you do, then absolutely can offer that as to outsource it. I mean, for other people, they want to outsource to use your function. Doesn't matter what if you're a pizza shop and you can run a third shift, usually closed, and somebody wants to buy pizzas to sell in their store the next day, you could add a third shift. Yes.
Yeah, I know a story recently. Someone reached out to a bagel shop I know and says, "Hey, you guys close at 2:00. I can sell falafel from 2 to 9. So, it's sitting there anyway. The lights are off."
Exactly. Same thing. My martial arts teacher, former UFC fighter, has hours that his gym is closed because it's usually early in the morning and then after school hours into the evening for professionals. So I said during that mid-afternoon, if there's anyone who can use a yoga class, exercise class, I don't know what they would do. Maybe an art class, they could just use the room. That's just found money for you. You're not using it.
Do you think owners once they reach, or entrepreneurs, once they reach a certain level of profitability, they get somewhat complacent where they're not even thinking of excess capacity that they can use their machines for something else where, hey, I'm making my money. My 20s and 30s were focused on growth, but I am where I am. And, they're not even actively thinking that. Do you consider that to be a laziness, or it depends on the person?
I've certainly seen cases of that where people become elderly in their 60s or above, and I hate to say that because I'm in my 60s. I don't think I'm elderly, but
It's different now.
that's
The
another
60s that when you were growing
That's
up
right.
are
That's
completely
right. That's
different.
right. I can still bang if I need to. If someone has had that entrepreneurial drive to succeed, and they've built from little or nothing to success, and they reach financial success, usually these are people that are highly motivated to achieve, because those who are complacent don't achieve. They don't progress. They sort of do their little job and they just keep doing it. So I think it's generally the character or the commitment of someone who's able to build like that, to keep wanting to build. Now, they might decide they want to build elsewhere. They might decide, if they're a religious Jew, they want to build by learning Torah, but with that kind of effort and dedication, or part-time learning Torah, or donating some time to help young entrepreneurs who are just starting out, who don't have any money and need help and guidance.
Love that.
Or go into a different area of endeavor. You look at like Elon Musk. By the way, I'm very much like Elon Musk in certain ways, that we're both.
You both drive a Tesla.
And there we go. We both came into business from non-business areas. He's an engineer. I'm a scientist physician. We both are able to be, certain levels of success is obviously way beyond my level of success, certain level of success. And we didn't do it for love of money. We enjoy the projects. We enjoy the science, the engineering. So
you're both friends with Donald Trump, President Trump.
Although people keep saying that Elon is on the outs, but they keep saying that. I don't know if that's true.
We know there's always going to be rumors. So.
All right. So so someone, and there are many. Sometimes they call them serial entrepreneurs. Now, unfortunately, a lot of what they call serial entrepreneurs are phonies. What's it take to start a company? It takes about $500 to register and getting an LLC. That doesn't mean the thing was successful. Doesn't mean the thing built or produced or was capable in any way. So, serial entrepreneur, I definitely want to make sure that the guy is being successful in the things that he's doing, or at least a lot of them being successful.
Some entrepreneurs are overly focused on the logo and the branding of their business before they even have a business.
Yeah, right.
Right. So where are their priorities?
I remember once we were looking at an investment group from Chicago. One of these multi-billion-dollar investment groups from Chicago came in, and it came to my office. I had a desk and piled with papers, and we didn't have plush wall-to-wall carpets and beautiful people running. And he came in. I said, you're going to see this. How I work, and I said, you're probably going to think that we're not really so capable because it's not your expensive plush surroundings. They said, oh no, exactly the opposite. You're a guy who wants to make money and is not going to go spend it frivolously, which was true. That's what we were. That's what the objective was.
Sure.
Make money, grow the business.
You mentioned
and help the employees.
You mentioned before, speaking with prospective employees, when someone is hired and you want to change their course of action, you need to give them feedback, constructive. What have you found to be the best way to do that so that they don't overreact or create friction in the relationship? Because this is somebody that clearly does a good job, but, messed up.
There are different types of personalities. I don't want to be arrogant and say I've seen them all, but it feels like I've seen them all. You could have, again, I don't know if it's politically appropriate, but sometimes women will take criticism as being very, very harsh. They think you're yelling when you're just speaking firmly. You have to be more careful and more, gentle with them. Some people, this is very common, the higher up you are, in the bigger the organization, they'll do what in psychiatry what's called transference. They'll start to see you as a parental figure. They'll start interacting with you as they would interact towards their parent, for good or for bad. But you're telling them that they did something wrong, could throw them into a total hysterical, tizzy. And that's not really a medical term, tizzy, but you understand what I mean? Yeah, because the whole world's crashing in. You have others that are just straight, unemotional, doing the job, and they understand the criticism. They want the correction. They want to correct it. They're thinking about it. Great. And there's some that are brutal people, and you need to be very tough with them. And you have to go to their desk, put your fist on the desk, lean over at them, and tell them, "You better not do this anymore. You better do it this way in the future." You have to first assess the psychological makeup of the person that you're correcting. Secondly, I always like to do things in writing, because what you say in so often gets changed according to the way the person wants to hear it. So you might start out telling, what, with this procedure, you did that way. This is a problem that occurred from it. We should really do it that way instead. You might start out that way. And if you find they can't incorporate verbal communications, verbal instructions, then they need to go to writing. An email is fine. Be very careful how you write it. And you might even want to get a labor attorney on the side, on the QT, to read the email before you send it, because it's going to serve two purposes. One is to give that person in an unequivocal way that they can't misinterpret what it is that they did that you find, needs to be improved or changed this way or that way. But it also is now starting to create a documentation trail. So eventually, if you go down this multiple times, you have to give them a written job warning. Then you have this whole documentation trail that you try to correct it, and then you come back. You said, "I told you to do it this way. You didn't do it this way. You went back to the old way. We've now lost money on that. You must correct it." And then eventually you can give them a corrective action plan with a timeline. And if they don't do it, then you terminate them. And the lawyer's making sure that everything you wrote was done in a way that protects you and the company. But it's never emotional. If you're frustrated, I've seen this again with business owners, frustrated, this employee keeps coming late to work, I'm going to blow my top. Better not blow your top. Don't blow your top. Your anger is your issue. Your responsibility is to make the company successful. So, and your anger has nothing to do with that. So you need to be unemotional and factual and right. On this day you're supposed to start work at 8:30. You came at 10 o'clock. This day you're supposed to be at 8:30. You came at 9:25. You need to come at 8:30. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem with your employment. Employment lawyer reviews it, make sure it's written correctly. Don't let them legalese it up. They might then start, with some big, long legal thing, and then the person's going to know it's not like a lawyer wrote it. Don't let them do it, but make sure that what you're doing in plain language is still going to make sure you're covered. So never let your emotions come through, but your body language can, and the words can be firm. Again, assess what type of person this person is. It's in a sense kind of like a diet. Some people are allergic to this or to that. You don't want to feed them what they're allergic to. So you need to know,
Each person.
you need to be able to focus it or customize it.
Hey, Kosher Money listeners, with spring and summer in the air, it's the perfect time to tell you what Twillory has been up to. You can see I'm still wearing my coat, but I'm gearing up for spring and summer. So you know Twillory, right? Men's clothing, so breathable, you didn't even know you're wearing it. It's incredible on a warm day, and it's machine washable just like this coat from Twillory. Yes, Twillory has you covered with comfortable, easy to care for shirts. I'm wearing one right now. Amazing pants, they stretch, and blazers. Check out the airsuit and more. So if you're looking for something for the warmer months, Twillory is perfect. For our new listeners, get this, Twillory is offering an exclusive deal online. Use the code KM20, kosher money, right? KM20 at checkout, and you'll get 20% off your purchase. There's no minimum order, and there's no cap on savings. No cap. That's trendy to say, I'm told. Just head over to twillory.com/koshermoney and take advantage of this offer. Link and all the information is in the show notes. Oh, and if you're in the Long Island area, Twillory now has a new store in Cedarhurst at 461 Central Avenue. It's a great spot to check out their latest collections and sales in person. Happy shopping! Imagine being a child trying to focus on school or a play, but all you can think about is, will there be dinner tonight? And now imagine that stress compounded by the fear and uncertainty of war. For too many children in Israel, this is their daily reality. The anxiety of food insecurity, combined with the turmoil of conflict, robs them of the stability they deserve. They're children, for heaven's sake. But Colel Chabad is stepping in. They are Israel's oldest charity, and they are ensuring children have consistent access to nutritious food, even during times like this. When food security is in place, everything changes for the children. They can focus in school, build confidence, engage with their friends, and stress goes down. Self esteem goes up. They thrive emotionally, mentally, academically, in all ways. Kol Chabad isn't just providing meals, they're providing hope, stability, and a sense of safety when it's needed most. You can be a part of this life-changing mission with just a few dollars or a lot. Visit kolchabad.org/kosher money. Give the families the security they need and the children the futures they deserve. That's kolchabad.org/kosher money. No dollar amount is too little or too high. Give, give, give. This money goes to an amazing place. I've seen it firsthand. I've been to their pantries in Israel. I see pictures, emails, videos all day and night. They're assisting because of people like you. Thank you. And now back to this week's episode.
What's the best way to dole out raises or bonuses, and what's the best way to ask for it as an employee?
Okay, two separate issues. Raises and bonuses should be done based on performance, based on capability, and also based on your assessment as the boss of what the market is for someone like this. When we had superstars, remember this woman was a young attorney, and I must have doubled her salary within 2 years. She was just a star, and you don't want to lose somebody like that. On the other hand, you need to know what the market is for your employees. But superstars, you definitely want to take care of, because those are the ones that are really going to drive the company. And for the other employees, you have to have performance reviews done. Again, now we're getting to how big the company is. As our company grew, I used to read all the performance reviews. Then eventually I had a human resources department, and they had to make sure the reviews were done, only bring the exceptions to me. And as you grow, you have to personally do less and less of that, but it still has to get done. That to be written performance reviews. If there's specifics to the area of your endeavor, again, I know pharmaceuticals, so it could be a number of batches they were able to test in the chemistry laboratory per week. Whatever it was, how did they do all those things? Also, you have to assess how they're interacting with other employees, their attitude towards the company. You don't want somebody around who's negative towards the company. So you have to take all those things into account in raises. Then obviously it comes to also the financial capability of your company to give raises. If you can't do it because you're financially in trouble, then I would say you need to level with the employees. You have to share with them the financial position you're in. And explain to them what's going on
Before they ask, right?
Right. I mean, we would do annual raises and bonuses, but of course, someone was a superstar that we couldn't believe how we got him at that price. Mm-hmm. It's not like the NFL; you have them locked into a contract, and for 4 years. Yet you need to protect them, meaning protect their being your employee. But you have to level them. I tell you, we went through a couple of very difficult times, and one period. Our major factory was in Northeast Philadelphia, which is a completely unionized area. We were non-unionized, and our employees did not have raises for 2.5 years. But I had full company meetings with them. I showed them what was going on with the finances. And I told them, I pledge, I will not get a raise until everyone else gets a raise first, except the occasional person who's a problem employee. But anybody normal, you all get raises first before I'll get a raise. And a union tried to unionize us multiple times. Employees just shut them out because the employees knew that I cared about them. Actually, truly did care about them. I even still feel this caring for them, even though it's been years and years. I'm actually, when an ex-employee set up a Facebook page on our company, and it was very nice. On my recent birthday, every birthday, I get tons and tons of nice comments from ex-employees. And don't like to be self-complimentary, but we've never had a boss as good as you. We never had a work environment as good as we did at your company. So hopefully you do it because you really care about them. Unfortunately, there are too many business owners who only care about themselves, only care about the money flowing up to the top. I even remember one of my vice presidents of finance actually said to me, he can't believe, he's so grateful how I share the money with all the employees. He says in most companies, money only flows to the top. But that to me, that's not only not a good personal ethos, personal characteristic, personal ethics, but it's also not good business. Because if it's all for you, if you're all selfish, then when you have good employees, don't expect them to stay with you when some headhunter calls offering them 10, 15, 20% more if they jump ship.
What about an employee? They feel like they're doing great work. They don't have an agreed upon, contract. They need a raise. They set up an appointment with their boss, 9:30. They come in. What should they be saying?
The first thing I would do is, if I'm the employee, I would assess what the employment and payment schedules are out there. If you're making, I make it up, $30,000 a year, and you're going to come in and ask for $35,000 a year, and it turns out every other job that you're qualified for only pays $25,000 a year, you want to be careful. But if the other jobs pay $60,000 a year, you probably don't want to ask just for a $5,000 raise. So first, you have to assess what your position is, because you go into a negotiation. You always have to go into any negotiation doing the research first to understand what the strength of your position is. Secondly, don't threaten, because if you threaten, then the boss may just say, okay, I can't do it. Your employment is now terminated. So you never threaten. Thirdly, don't tell anybody, period, that you're doing it. Don't tell anyone. No, your best friend, employee that you work with, your cousin, you don't tell anybody, because if you go into that boss's office when raises are not due to be given, and you tell him you need a raise, tell him the reasons why, he gives you a raise, and all of a sudden, all these other people come in. Hey, you gave Joe a raise. Why can't I get a raise? It's bad situation. I've had employees who came in to my office and they wanted 50% raise from where they were, because they said they can get that elsewhere. And then obviously, as an employer, never make a decision on the spot. Thank you. I'll take it under advisement. I'll get back to you when, as soon as I can. Well, when by? That's already getting a little obnoxious, because they always have a right to leave, and you always have a right not to get back to them or whatever they think their timeline is. But you never make the decision on the spot. And then hopefully you have your feelers out there in the company. I don't call them spies, but I had so many of the employees were just loyal to me, and I was loyal to them. I was actually loyal to all my employees, but some had really special relationship, and they would tell me what's going on. I can go out and I could ask them quietly, not where everybody could see me talking to them. So as soon as I talk to an employee, all of a sudden, everyone wants to know, what am I saying to that guy? So can I have my secretary go out there and say, can you go to Dr. Roberts' office this hour? Nobody's around, and find out, anything about this guy? And he talk. Oh yeah, everyone says he's going in asking for a raise. Thank you. And because now I know I can't give him a raise.
Some people make the mistake when they ask for a raise, they base it on their personal situation.
Yes.
Where now I have 3 kids, I need a bigger house, so now give me more money.
Yeah.
Would you say that's a mistake?
It's such a fundamental mistake. There's a TV show on a pawn shop where people come in and guy says, how much the pawn shop owner says, how much do you want for this item? Well, I really want to go on a trip to Florida. It'll cost me $100. No. The value of that item has nothing to do with how much money you need. And the amount that a company is going to pay you has nothing to do with how much money you need. It has to do with the value that you bring to the company, or that item is being sold is to the buyer. It's based on value. Company doesn't operate based on your needs, based on what is good for the company. Now, what's good for the company is to have a happy employee, and to pay that employee within a range of what that employee would fetch on the open market. These sad stories about why you need more money. Maybe you deserve 100% more than that. Maybe you deserve less than what you're earning now. It depends on the value that you bring to the company. You don't come in with those excuses. It's any company manager worth his or her salt will only see you as an amateur.
What commonalities do you see between building a business and growing a family? I mean, a lot of the thoughts when you're talking, I'm thinking, hey, that's actually a good conversation to have with my kid, or hey, we need to grow, a family and push them in the right direction. That's great of how to give feedback to somebody,
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that
Right,
there
right.
are commonalities?
Oh, yeah. I mean, right. The first commonality I would say about raising children and trying to run a company is continuous pain and suffering. So, and demands. So, and I'm joking, obviously, but there's issues that come up. Raising children in relationships, there are always issues that come up. Some good, some not so good. Some happy, some painful. Some difficult, some easy. But they're right. These are all management is managing through life, and someone who can manage a business can probably also manage a home and manage, a lot of other projects and organizations. When I first retired from the company, I joined the board of directors of a couple of organizations, and what I found almost immediately was the other people on the board were just like local guys who had no experience managing things, and they were incompetent. And I ended up leaving those boards. I want nothing to do with them. I'm just wasting my time. They can't stay on topic. They can't solve problems. They can't have structured solutions. They can't follow up in a structured way. I'm just wasting my time. So managing is in every area of life. I'm not saying you want to manage your marriage exactly how you manage your business,
Right.
but there are certainly plenty of psychology books on the transactional nature of
Right.
relationships.
I want to end with some fun ones. I remember last time we spoke before the last presidential election, and I said, "Who do you think's going to win?" And you said Trump. So last I checked, he was the president. He won. Um, let's talk a little bit about the U.S. economy, the tariffs. This might not be a relevant conversation for someone watching 2 years from now, or maybe not. What's your prediction? How does this all play out? And should people who have limited means be concerned about prices going up?
When it comes to tariffs, ultimately, I can tell you I am not the expert on it. I've seen the Secretary of the Treasury speaking very, very intelligently about it, that the price increases should be modest. It's most of the price increases get absorbed by the other country or the other company and don't end up with the consumer. But there may be some. But at the same time, the Trump administration is doing many things that will lower prices. For example, the price of oil has dropped from like $120 a barrel to $60 a barrel. Now, I don't know the price of gas because I drive a Tesla, but I would hope that those prices are coming down. They used to be at $4 or $5 a gallon. Hopefully that's all coming down. And whereas people might end up paying more for certain goods, you're not going to get the cheap Chinese goods anymore, but you're going to be saving money in other areas. People only do what they're incentivized to do. And this creates a financial incentive for people to have stuff manufactured here. And it's not only important economically, but also militarily, geopolitically. It's critical to us to be manufacturing more and more things here. We can't manufacture a lot of things as cheaply as they do in areas of Asia where they have slave labor, figuratively and literally, or where they have no regard for environmental laws. They just dump like crazy into landfills, into waterways. They don't care. So, and I'm not saying all of Asia, but we're talking about China, India, other areas. So we are handicapped in that area, in that way, and that might lead to some higher prices, but it will also lead to increased employment and presumably maybe some increased salaries for people. But I think that strategically, we have no choice. Now, I can tell you in 2020, I met with President Trump. I was the last civilian to meet with him before it was announced that he had COVID, that my phone blew up the
You
next
didn't give
day.
it to him, right?
No, actually,
Okay.
I came out of quarantine because I figured the Secret Service is going to make sure that President Trump doesn't get COVID. So it's a one time I came out of quarantine, and it turns out that was my only exposure. When we were talking, I said, what's your plans for China? He said, decoupling. He wants to decouple. It was not wrong to think over the last few decades that by integrating these communist countries into the world economic system, by buying a lot from China, as economic prosperity came, so would freedom and liberalism of their laws and openness of expression in the press. It was not wrong to think that would happen, but it didn't. All we did was we empowered a communist regime that wants to take over the world and destroy us. So now President Trump is the one who is standing up to do the hard work, which is to decouple from them. Stop funding your enemy. And they are our enemy. There's no question about it. They've been stealing our technology left and right. They're building up militarily. China still obviously is planning to invade and take over Taiwan. If that happens, about 90% of the semiconductors come out of TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductors. So we're in real trouble. Not so easy for, say China's huge, Taiwan is relatively small. Taiwan only has like 6 areas where people can land troops. The rest are like cliffs. So it's not so clear that China could, and they have China's across the water, not so clear that China could actually successfully invade Taiwan. But the point is, what President Trump said to me in 2020 is what he's doing right now, which is to decouple from China. We have to do it. In terms of investing, with the S&P 500 being so much lower now, I've been buying the S&P 500. I just, as I've said, I said this during COVID when I put out a video on this, and so many people came back to me, a couple of years later, said, "Thank you, I doubled my money." I'm not the guy giving the stock tips, inside stock tips if you'll pay me. No, I'm just telling them what sort of everybody knows, that if the country goes out of business, your money's not going to be worth anything anyway. But the United States is the superior political, economic, legal system in the world. And with the work ethic that, the Democrats have tried to destroy, but that's still coming through, we are still poised, even if there is a recession at this point, which I'm not sure there's going to be, but if there is, every indicator is that we're still going to be the leaders going forward over the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. So I think I've been buying on this dip, and I think that the United States is going to be stronger and better off for it.
You mentioned your videos. Dr. Rich Roberts does have a YouTube channel, a lot of awesome videos. And I remember the S&P 500 video during COVID. You also have videos there about UFOs.
Yes.
So briefly, what are your views of UFOs? And, I think even Trump and there being a little bit more openness to government secrets and things of that nature. Tell the crowd what are your views and how have they developed over the years?
I had always thought that people who are, claiming to see UFOs or interacting with UFOs, that they were a bunch of nuts. And that all changed in 2020 when 3 videos of UFOs that were taken from our fighter aircraft were leaked to the press, to the New York Times. And in 2020, the U.S. Navy, they still have it on their website, acknowledged that these are authentic videos. And since then, there have been many, many whistleblowers that have come forth. Christopher Mellon, who is an undersecretary of defense, David Grush, who's high up in the intelligence service. As Congressman Burkett said, we have so many high-level intelligence and military people coming forward and saying that the United States has been recovering these UFOs and they're real, that either these UFOs are actually real or we're in deep, deep trouble because our military and intelligence leaders are hallucinating.
What does that mean, UFOs are real? Because UFO means it's just unidentified.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, let's go. So, right. So people who want to blow smoke on this or want to
Obfuscate something. We'll put it on the bottom.
Obfuscate. Sorry.
That word.
Yeah, that word.
People who want to do that.
People who want to cloud or try to hide what's going on, they'll say, "Oh, well, UFO is any unidentified flying object." Right. Well, a bird that's flying, you don't know what it is, UFO. But we're all talking about spacecraft from alien, living, intelligent beings. That's what we're
and when someone hears you say that, the average person, you in 2019, before 2020, you'd be like, that's crazy.
Nuts. But once the United States Navy acknowledges that those videos of this craft are real, and the fighter pilots say...
And they say it's real, meaning what exactly?
The videos of those objects are authentic. And you have the fighter pilots in the Phantom jets saying, "Whoa, what is that? Look at that thing."
Right.
They've never seen anything like that. It far exceeds by orders of magnitude anything human beings can do. And there's now been radar data from the USS Princeton that's been released by the Pentagon. More whistleblowers coming forth, congressional hearings on it. So what's very clear is that it's not really a reasonable position anymore to say that there isn't intelligent life that's visiting our planet in their craft, whatever the craft are. That's not reasonable to doubt that anymore. The evidence is overwhelming.
And it's not a Chinese technology that's 100 years greater than anything we have now.
If the Chinese had a technology 100 years greater than anything we have now, there would be no competition with China anymore. They'd be dominating the world in every way. I mean, dominating. They would rule us, literally rule us.
How fast was that UFO going? Do you know?
So yes, so calculation has been done. First of all, is these UFOs that are flying? They have no exhaust that comes out of them, so it's not clear how they move. There's no exhaust. There's no smoke coming out. There's no heat coming out. We don't understand how they're able to propel themselves through the air.
So it's not an asteroid.
Right. Secondly, there are no flight maneuver systems on it. There are no wings. There's no way that we can see how it changes directions. Thirdly, the amount of force that the Earth exerts on us, pulling us down, is called 1G of force. The maximum amount of G forces that a human being can withstand without dying is about 9 to 10 Gs. When you go, like if you turn your car, you're going along, you do a turn, you feel the G force pushing you outward, right? That's force. So the maximum that a human being can withstand is 9 to 10 Gs. The maximum that our best fighter aircraft can withstand before the wings rip off is about 18 to 19 Gs. These things are pulling 3,000 Gs. Our fighter aircraft take about half the state of Ohio to change direction 90 degrees when at full speed. These things change on a dime. John Ratcliffe, who's head of the CIA now, he used to be, I think he was Secretary of Defense. He said on Fox News that our satellites have tracked these things from 80,000 feet in outer space, crashing down to just right above sea level and stopping on a dime. And then they take off again. There's no question that there's intelligent life that's here. What here means, I mean, they're flying all around. And by the way, these are usually seen at our nuclear facility, all countries' nuclear facilities and at military training centers, military operations centers. That's not reasonable to doubt anymore that they are real, they're here. What they're doing, we can discuss that. I don't know. I've never seen them. I never talked to them. And David Grush, who was the head of the program for the United States military on UFOs, the U.S. military calls them UAPs. He said that we've recovered over a dozen UFO craft, and that what the military has done is it has given those craft to the major defense contractors so that through freedom of information, if Congress or citizens want to know, does the United States have UFO aircraft, alien aircraft? The answer is no. And you can't do freedom of information on a private company. So that's what they're being, but Congress, there are people in Congress, many people in Congress working to claw this stuff back. But there's very little doubt that it's real. They're here, and Congress has been after it. Now, there are a lot of priorities that occur, and we'll see. But anyone can just go on YouTube and research it. It's not wacky anymore. It'd be wacky to think that there are not alien beings who are traveling all around here. Now, I don't even know what travel means, by the way, when it comes to these craft. Remember, I have a lot of physics training. I have a doctorate in biophysics. It looks like they're not traveling by Newton's second law of motion, meaning you want to go forward, you have to shoot something backward, shoot exhaust or air backward to move forward. That's how all craft we know go. It doesn't seem that they're working that way. So it could be that they're somehow affecting space-time in front of them and warping space-time, which is Einstein's theory of general relativity, is about how space-time warps around objects of mass. So they might be warping space-time, and somehow that's how they're sort of jumping, and we can't see the small jumps. There seems to be some speculation over an electromagnetic connection to how they travel, because there's been reports that when we've done some nuclear tests, we found alien craft that crashed right after that. And what the nuclear blast, not only does it release incredible amounts of energy, heat, that vaporizes everything around it, but you get a pulse of electromagnetic radiation, and that could be short-circuiting these things, and we don't even know they're there. I don't know the answers, but I know with 99.9% certainty that they are very, very real.
Wild. Dr. Roberts, always insightful, always enjoy it. I could sit here for another hour and just take it all in. We might have to do a third episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us. We're
Hope it
here
was helpful.
in his home, and we really, really appreciate you.
My pleasure.
And that'll do it for this week's episode. But do you want to hear something amazing? Okay, we recorded this episode on Tuesday, April 9th, 2025, the same day the markets exploded, right? We recorded at about 1:30 p.m. During the interview, literally within the hour after Dr. Roberts warned about China, he praised Trump's decoupling strategy and said it was a smart time to buy stocks when they're down. That very, very hour, President Trump announced a 90-day tariff pause. But what did he do? He hiked tariffs on China to 125%, and boom, the Dow surged nearly 3,000 points. One of the best days of all time in the market. The S&P was up almost 10%. The NASDAQ was up over 12%. Dr. Roberts didn't just talk economics that day. He called the shot. It was unbelievable timing. I showed him in his office. We had our phones off, and then I showed him. He goes, boom, goes the dynamite. Regarding the UFOs, we'll see how that prediction plays out. If you'd like to be entered for the chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card, use one of the following words seamlessly in your comment on this YouTube video. If you're listening on Spotify, head over to YouTube, leave the comment. You'll be entered for the chance to win Dr. Rich. You can use these words, Dr. Rich, business, or wise. Use any of those three words, and you'll be entered for the chance to take home a $100 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to our most recent winner, Y. Dubin. You just won yourself a $100 Amazon gift card. He left a comment in our awesome episode with Jeff Allen, the winner of a $10 million prize from Mr. Beast. So Y. Dubin, hit us up on livinglchaim.com and we can get that gift card over to you. Thank you to the sponsors of this week's episode, friends of our Naava, who's on a mission to help every girl and woman in need of inspiration, education, and strength. Thank you to our friends at BitBean, custom software solutions, which so many businesses need in 2025. Thank you to Twillory. They got a new store in Cedarhurst featuring super comfortable and durable men's clothing available online. And, of course, from the beginning, our friends of Colel Chabad, who are supporting Israel with much needed food and resources. Check them all out and support them by clicking the links in the show notes. If you're thinking about your finances and you need help budgeting, tackling debt, or just want to chat with a financial advisor or a friend, the OU's livingsmarterjewish.org website offers free resources and has already assisted thousands of people in navigating their financial journeys. Don't be shy. I've done it, and so many people just like us. Reach out to info@livingsmarterjewish.org and schedule. It's free and it's awesome. Oh, and if you love the Kosher Money Podcast, help us reach more listeners by giving us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Your rating helps boost our visibility in the magical algorithm. I call it AL, the magical AL, which is essential for keeping the podcast going. Thank you so much for tuning in, your support. If you want even more Kosher Money, join our YouTube Premium membership for early access to episodes just like this and other exciting perks that we're releasing. We're constantly working on adding more benefits for our members. We're working on a new website. And if paying more isn't your thing, no worries. We're just happy. Keep that in, Jody. We're just happy to have you on board. Until next time, cha-ching!
Living Lchaim.